upload that you can do, but this is fully documented as well. Okay, so this is the first step. We have now the data pump there. So now what we have to do is I want to import this data pump. So what I will do is I will connect with SQL CL to my database. So let's see if I can do that. Okay, so now I'm connected from my local instance to my ATP database. Again, in my blog post, I walk you through like how you can set this up. So it's basically setting up SQL CL. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a user Apex Media extension. And I basically create the schema. I give it like a password. My default table space is data, and I give it some grants. So let's see if I can do that. Let's first make sure that I don't have this user anymore. I think I dropped it, but just to make sure. Okay, so now I can start again. So I create the user. So creating the user and giving it some grants. Okay, so we have the user. So now I'm going to import my data pump in there. So here's MDP. Then I have data pump there, my credentials, and then a dump file. Now this dump file is this one. So you can go to view object details. You can just copy this directory or this URL. And I'm going to move it here. Like that. And then I remap my table space because on my local system, I had Apex Media extension, and now I'm going into data table space. So let me copy that. So it's a regular import data pump. Password. Okay, so it's connecting to the database, and it's here it's going to start, and now it's looking at my tables. Oh, sorry, I was still there. Okay, so it imported my tables. And yeah, those warnings, it doesn't really matter because the table space doesn't exist, cannot give a grant, but we don't need that. So that's it, basically. So we have now the database there. So now let's connect to it. So here again, like I walked through what you see here. So now let's go to the Apex Builder. So let's go to, so we go here, autonomous transaction processing. Then we look at our ADP instance, DBDB. And here under tools, we find Oracle Application Express. So we open Apex. So the first thing we have to do is we have to move our application to. So we are going to create a workspace here. So we log in an internal workspace. Okay. So here we are going to manage workspaces. Let's look at existing workspaces. So I have 3 existing workspaces, but I want to create a new workspace. So I'll create a workspace. My database user is Apex Media Extension, the one that I just created. Workspace name is fine. And you see, I cannot really give a password. So the default way to log in is through the database user. So I don't need to be an internal anymore. I can now log out and I can log into the workspace I just created. So Apex Media Extension. And then what many people don't know, like they do like admin and then the password, But what you have to do is you have to log in with the database user. So Apex Media extension. And then when we look at the script, how we created this Apex Media extension, we gave it the password Apex Home 42. So I can log in like that. So now it says, okay, set up Application Express. Okay, so here's my email. Apply changes. Okay, so here we go. Let's go to SQL Workshop object browser. And here are my two tables. So I can look at the tables. This one has some blob columns in it. So all the images are there. And yeah, that's it. So the only thing I have to do now is import, choose file. And my file is here, application Amy. I choose this one, next. And that's basically it. Like this is a normal Apex application import. And that's basically it. So we now moved our current application to the always free Oracle Cloud. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat or in the Q&A section. And I'm happy to answer those. Okay, thanks. Extension. Okay. I probably didn't create a user yet. Users, create user, demo. Okay, I need to have a secure password. Let's see if it's good enough. No. I don't know what you guys use as a password. It's always a challenge for me to find a password. This is why I typically use like 1Password or something. So now I should be able to log in. So I have user now. Let's see if I can connect. Okay, and here's my application. So that's really fast how to do that. So in my next demo, I want to show the difference when you use a compression and no compression. So let's go and here, SQL Workshop, SQL Comments, and I will create two tables. So my first table is Dimi not compressed, and it's select star from all objects. So I'm going to create my table here. Okay, and I will see how many objects are there in this table. So 18,376 records. So now I will create a demi-compressed table. And the only thing here is what you have to know is row store compress advanced. if you specify that, this is when you use advanced compression. So I'm going to do the same thing. I will create this table. They will create it. And now I will pump up the same records. So I will insert into this demi-compressed, and I will select from demi-compressed. So let's do that here maybe. So insert 18,000 rows inserted. And now I will gather statistics. So here, comment, I'll just gather statistics for a whole schema. This is not cloud, but Apex Media extension. Okay, and now let's see how much room everything takes. So I can just query user tables and I'll check the number of blocks in there. So let's run that. So my DME not compressed has 18,376 records, and it consumes 2.97 megabyte. Compression is disabled. And here my DME compressed table, same amount of records, but only consumes 1.9 megabyte, and compression is enabled. So here, this is a quick way to check those things. So I did want to highlight this. So before I go into the last demo, how to check performance, let's first do a recap. So let me go to the presentation so you see what I did. Okay, so the first thing here, like if you don't have a database yet and you want to start with this always free cloud, one of the tips that I always give is like use Quick SQL. It's a way for you to model your tables. I didn't show it in the demo, but like I can show you where you find it. You go to SQL Workshop, you go to SQL Scripts, and here's Quick SQL. So here, this allows you to type in AMP and an ID, name, last name. So I can do, for example, photo, and it creates a blob. And so here, this is a very quick way to get started if you don't have anything yet. So this is just what I wanted to highlight here. And then, so if you have something, so what we did is we export the database, and we export the Apex app. Then what I showed you is how you import the data pump and how you import the Apex app in the free cloud. Okay, so the way to do it is you upload the data pump. This is a command again. We created a new user. The default table space is data. You added a couple of grants, and don't forget to give quota, like I typically give quota unlimited on this data table space. Then we import the data pump, and we do a remap of the table space. And then we create a new workspace, and then we import the Apex app. Those are the steps. So export and then import, and use OCI client tools to do this. Advanced compression, there's a good book. I put a reference here, or some more, it's a white paper, and it goes into a lot more detail than what I showed, what you can do. So basically it comes down to, you can create a table, but just put row store compress advanced, and then it's there. You can also, if you already have tables and you want to get this compression in, you can do that too. And there's a command called alter table, and either this is not necessary, but you can do it. There's a different way of how the data is put into this compression. So row store compress advanced, or move row store compress advanced. Here it's an example, and here how you can query it. So this is just the slides. When you just look at the slides, you find all the information you need as well. Here, in this case, it's a different database. And here you saw like it's a third, it depends the table that you have, but the compression makes a huge difference. Okay, so let's go into performance and I will show a few things. So there are two bigger ways of looking at performance, like a performance hub, and then you have metrics. I'll show both of them. And then like here are some screenshots, but I will show that live. And then there's one other thing I want to highlight is it's nice to have this free stuff, but if you're really going to host production applications in there, like you want to monitor it. You want to monitor and see if it's still alive or not. And in the cloud, there are some tools to do this as well. So it's a monitor section. I will show that in a minute too. So what we will do, we will create an alarm, it's called, and some health checks. Okay, so before we move on, let me quickly show you where you find all that. So here we went to the autonomous database. Let's just go to the first tab. When you scroll down, you have metrics. So here you see what is happening on your database. This is good. You can also go to Service Console, but pop-up is blocked. I need to allow pop-ups. So here you find metrics too, and you have different ways of looking at your data. Real time, time period, you can monitor SQL. So it's a good way of doing things, but I like the Performance Hub a bit better. So there's another button here. When you click on Performance Hub, it looks really nice, I find. And it gives a bit more flexibility. So I can look at a window. I can change my window where I look at. If I want to see what did I do last night, for example, or this morning, what happened, or I just want to focus really on what we did just now, I can do it here very fast. I like this a lot. So it has like all those things, Ash Analytics, SQL monitoring, sessions that were blocked, the workload that's there. We can drill down in any of those. So I can look at the SQL that was being executed. So let's see, maybe for this SQL, there wasn't much. No, let's take something else. Go here. Okay, so SQL monitoring. It's a bit of time to. No, just nothing. Okay, so here I see like comments that have been run, but I don't really have much workload. We just created a couple of tables. So, but let's say I take this one, I can go into it. I get more details, what happened here. I get a text. Can look at more activity, more metrics. I find this Performance Hub a bit better to look at performance and to drill down in case some people complain that things are slow. You can look at it from this here, especially blocking sessions. This is what you will find if things are really slow. You might have blocking sessions. There's a connection pool of 20. So if you have blocking sessions in there, you might want to look at that. So no, I don't have any blocking sessions. Okay, so this is performance. So now let's look at the monitoring piece. So when you scroll down here, you have monitoring. And we can go to service metrics, for example. So here you see the different things. What I typically use is alarm. So you can create an alarm. So you give it a name, and you say like, what do you want to look at? So I want to look at my autonomous database every minute, for example. What do you want to look at? For example, I want to look at all the CPU, or I want to look at queries or long running sessions or something like that. So let's say I look at CPU every minute. I look at it whenever it's greater than 1, like this will always be the case, but you see here like what happens. So normally like this bar should show you where things are. Oh, sorry. Let me do it. So here 0, 1, 2, 3, you see that the bar is changing. So you see your load, and we have almost no activity, but when you have a heavy system, like you will see those spikes. So you can decide where you want the bar to be, like when should it trigger. And then you can say, okay, what should it do? And for example, it can send me an email, but you can create a new topic. And instead of email, you can say, do a Slack message or pager duty, or like do a REST call. Like this is something I use frequently as well, that I set up an alarm and I do a REST call to an ODS link on another database. So it logs all the things that are happening. So alarms is one thing. Then you have health checks too. It's similar to an alarm, but it's just defined a little bit different. So request type. So here you can compare like an alarm is really in the details. The health check is more like something like pingdom, or I don't know what else you use, but it basically sends a signal to the database, for example, or the ODS, and checks like, are you still there? Are you still there? Are you still there? So this is like, in my case, it's typically an HTTP or HTTPS call that I do to an ODS request. And this way, your database will have some activity as well. And it will just tell, okay, it's there. Oh, it's not there. And then it will send you an email, for example. So you can define that here again, what it should do. So here method, just a get, and then where is it? Or just put it on target. Oh, here as well, like from where do you want to do the ping? So you always want to use a different data center from the one that you are hosting in. Because if something happens to the data center, you want to be notified as well. So you can select a few of those, and then you can set up your HTTP request that you want. Let me go back to my presentation. So here, what I typically look for is instance availability, reachable. So this is your ping method that you can do. The CPU utilization, it gives an overall view of how your instance is doing. There's a metric called queued statements. So here it gives you an idea if it's too high, you need more resources. Running statements, I also explained why you want to look at that. Okay, and then let me see if you have any questions. So I don't think there are any questions asked yet. Sorry. Let's, okay, I have 10 more minutes. So one of the questions I get as well is like, how do you do backups of this? And when you look at the instance already, like it has some kind of backups. So let's look at ATP again. So let's look here. And let's see if we can see it here. More actions. Don't see it here. Scale up, scale down. No, we don't see it here anymore. Did we take it off? Oh, here. So on the left. See. Yeah, okay. So here's backups. So there are some backups that are being taken, which is auto backup, but like, I don't know if you want to restore it like this. Like, do you want to really restore your entire instance like this? Or let's say you made a mistake in a schema. So how do you do that? And I wrote a blog post like how I do that. And this is what I wanted to highlight here as well. What you want to do, like I call it a bastion machine. So you set up an instance, and a compute instance, and it's in my blog post too, how you do that. And this is just a Linux machine that sits there. You set up your command line tools like I did for on my local machine here. And with SQL you can automate you can do a bash, like a cron job that exports your applications, and you XDP, you do a data pump export, automated as well. So then you have a combined script and you have a cron job. So here, when you go to this link, you will see how to do that. So what if you need more? Like you started with this always free database, and you became very successful, which I hope you all be. Like, what do you do next? And Oracle did a really nice thing in that sense that you can upgrade. So I don't know if you saw it when I was looking at actions. So here you can create a clone. So you have two databases. And let's say you have a development and you want a production instance, you can just create a clone of your development and use that as the start of your production. But what you can do as well is upgrade database instance to paid. So you can do that. And then you have auto scaling. So here, like scale up, scale down. This is now with the free thing, you cannot really do it. Like I cannot change this. But when you have a paid instance, you can just scale up, or you can say like auto scaling. But you need of course, this is where the free stops and where you have to pay. I did want to highlight it in case you need it. So cloning, increase OCPU. Oh yeah, this auto scaling. This is interesting that Oracle has a nice feature that if for a certain amount of time you need a lot more, you don't have to do this yourself. Like it can go up to 3 times. Like if you have one OCPU, it can go to up to 3 times that, and it will charge you for the average. Like it's a very convenient way if at some point you have a very high spike, and for the rest of the time you don't have any usage or hardly usage of your app. This is a very nice way as well of doing things. Okay, cloning. Okay, so what I wanted to show here is, although they say you get 1 OCPU in the free ATP, it's still a little bit slower than your paid instance. Like they have special Exadata machines for the free things, and then you have the ones for the paid customers. And what I found is there's a difference between those. Although they both have 1 OCPU, the paid one is still a bit faster than the free one. Now, I must say that over time, when I look compared to a year ago, today it's 1, it's much more stable, the free tier, and 2, it's also much, like I find it faster now. It might be just because like a feeling, or related to internet or something like that. But it's my feeling. Also, like, it's not only my feeling, also in my metrics, I see it. So I have a check. I check if my database is alive. And like a year ago, it would go down like once in a while. And now it has been very reliant, like 99% uptime in the last months. So very good. Okay, so I think we have 3 minutes left. So if there are any questions, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, or you can always reach me later as well.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri, for this very informative presentation. I think the audience is still processing all the data that they received during this first session. But if the questions will pop up, we will let you know, and you could answer them.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for it's very early, right? As well. So
yeah,
it's nice that
it's the first session of the day, so it's always we have to break the ice. So
yeah. Okay, thank you very much, and then I see you next time, and hopefully then it will be in person again.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.